Hey y'all, it's me, Dr. Smita Rahman, Gyno Girl. Welcome back to another episode of Gyno Girl TV. I'm Dr. Smita Rahman. I'm super excited to talk to you about a new twist on an old topic. Maybe it's not new, but it's something that we haven't discussed here yet. I want to inspire you guys to keep, doing your best and getting the best healthcare that you can. It's funny because my husband recently was speaking to someone who said that they listen to my podcast and follow me on social media. He was like, "Oh, are you part of that vigilante nation that she's creating?" Vigilante, what do you guys think? We are vigilantes. We are not shrouded in shame. We're fighting sexual dysfunction. I kind of like it. Stay tuned for more. I'm Dr. Smita Rahman. I'm a sexual medicine specialist in downtown Chicago, and I treat midlife women. I am a board-certified gynecologist. I am in my own private practice, and I'm actually in the process of transitioning my practice to a concierge model known under the umbrella of Ms. Medicine, which I am super excited about because this is a national group of concierge physicians and clinicians who are doing great work, and I'm super excited to be part of that. So anyway, I was telling you guys in the intro that there are so many patients that come to see me because they are really distraught about what's happening in their relationship, right? Imagine it. You've been in a relationship for a very long time. The thrill of the newness is gone, right? And so when I've talked to you guys about low libido and hypoactive sexual desire disorder before, I've talked to you about as your brain is your biggest sexual organ and what is involved in that sexual response, right? What is spontaneous desire? Your desire to have intercourse and sexual relations with your partner on its own, right? You see him, you want to jump him, that kind of thing. You see her, you want to jump her, whatever the case may be. And so that happens, early relationships. We always joke on the Menopause Forum that this is like the Glenn Powell effect. If your medications are working, if you see him and, you feel a little urge to, do something about it. So that is, one thing that we like to discuss when it comes to sexual dysfunction is that your brain is your biggest sexual organ. And so I've previously told you that there are things that will make us into an excitatory mode and things that will inhibit us. I call it the let's go versus hell no, all right? It's like excitation, which would include your testosterone, your dopamine, your norepinephrine. You have things like oxytocin. You have things like that's from a biologic perspective, right? And things that are like, hell no, from a biologic perspective, really an increase in serotonin. So that's why those SSRIs hit people so hard in so many ways. Opioids, prolactin as a hormone. So those are things from a biologic perspective. But remember, sexual function is really more of a circular, it's not linear like we used to talk about back in the day with the masters of sex themselves, Masters and Johnson, when they first came out with what they thought the human sexual response was. It was linear, it was excitation, arousal, all the things that's one go, right? But Rosemary Besant came up with a different model, and hers was along the lines of different factors that play into either spontaneous or responsive desire. And so it's more of a circular thing, like in this graph. And so what happens to different patients over time and over a long relationship is that spark is gone, right? Like if you actually question the majority of women in long-term relationships, why they decide to have sexual relations with the partner that they're with, almost zero will tell you because they are quote unquote horny. Most of them will say it's because I want to just continue my relationship. I want to make my partner happy. I want to take this girls trip, and I know if I give him a little bit of something, he'll give me this in return. There's transactional things happening. It's not this spontaneous, like jump your bones kind of theory, right? What happens is I have this amazing friend and colleague who I've spoken to on my podcast, Dr. Laurie Mintz. She wrote many books, including this one, Becoming Clitorate. She wrote the book on A Tired Woman's Guide to Passionate Sex. And she gave us a great talk at Ishwish last year. So it really got me thinking about the gender roles and the heteronormative roles in a relationship. And it seems fairly obvious, but when you have a higher mental load than your partner, right? You are balancing, you are doing checkbox lists in your head. You are trying to figure out, what's the best way to get through the day. You are trying to figure out, who's picking up the kids, who's taking the soccer, who's going to follow up on your patients or family or whatever, right? You have a lot going on. You have a huge mental load. You compound that with these gender-specific roles that have been developed in our patriarchal system. And so, for instance, if you're the one that's always going over and over again, cleaning up after everyone, you're making the dinner, you're cleaning up, you're doing the daily laundry, the daily chores and duty, your desire for your partner will go down. And I guess this is not rocket science because people feel very resentful. I have patients who tell me that all the time. I love my spouse, but I'm so resentful because I come home just as tired as he is, and I am the one that has to pick up the kids or do the things or make the dinner or do whatever, right? So there's that issue. And then there's also the issue of, what happens in your relationship if you're the one that has to make sure they're getting their medications, if you're the one that's taking care of your spouse, right? You are acting motherly toward them. So the idea of having sex with that person goes out the window. And so there's a mental load that comes with some of these heteronormative roles. And it's not rocket science. This was actually a paper that was published. And this is the article that I'm referencing. It's called The Heteronormativity Theory of Low Sexual Desire in Women Partnered with Men. It has some great authors on there, including Lori Barato and Debbie Hibernick, who I both know from Ishwish. And basically, it's a concept of really that maybe it's not all hormones. Maybe it's not all psychologically what's happening to you, right? The anxiety that you might be experiencing, depression symptoms. Maybe it's not all around that and the biology or the pathology, but it may actually be secondary to a natural outcome of gender inequity in a heteronormative relationship between a man and a woman. So it might just be a reaction to what's been happening from the cultural dynamics or, feeling a natural reaction that's mirroring sort of the cultural dynamics of a relationship, right? And so this theory actually talks about the core drivers of low desire in these relationships of women partnered with men. And one of them is the mental load that I was discussing. So women carry this invisible labor of cleaning, of caregiving, of managing a home, and it leaves them feeling less room for horniness, right? So you don't feel this erotic need to do anything. Again, I always say if you're doing to-do list or you're planning dental appointments in your head, you're just trying to get through a situation of that responsive desire you might be experiencing. Sometimes, sex is thought more as a duty as opposed to, again, that spontaneous desire to do something. Or it's the constant pressures around trying to look a certain way, trying to look desirable. Some people feel like they look disheveled all the time and they're trying to run around doing all the things, and it impacts their body image and how they feel about themselves. And ultimately, that diminishes your desire as well. And then just really more about what are the gendered scripts here? Men are the ones that are supposed to spontaneously, choose to, get you excited or to pursue, and women are just supposed to respond, right? This reinforces this imbalance and that idea in your head that continues. And so I think it matters. This theory matters because it really destigmatizes the idea of low desire and recognizing all the social and complicated relationship issues. I always say that we joke in this field that, when we are able to give someone the old term of HRT, hormone replacement therapy, we can give hormone replacement therapy, we can't do husband replacement therapy. So those are important things to remember, right? We can't actually be the ones that remove a spouse that you probably hate or don't feel good about, right? So I know what you're thinking, great, Dr. Iran, you kind of told me something I already know. I feel resentful about the whole relationship issue because I don't like feeling dead inside. I wish I could enjoy myself more in my relationship. But of course, I do feel crappy because I do feel resentful. And so patients tell me that all the time. Well, okay, this is not rocket science. You're telling me something that I probably could have figured out. What do I do about it? And so that's where a lot of times sex therapy comes into play. It's actually, working with someone from, again, biopsychosocial, right? That's how we sort of address sexual medicine issues. So the biology is, I can give you some hormones, I can give you Vyleesi, I can give you Addyi, some of these things will help. I can give you something to offset your antidepressants, the SSRIs that may have been crushing your libido, or something, or other medications that have been crushing it. We can evaluate all of that and see what's going on. We can also look at what's happening with your mental state, right? Are you super anxious? Are you ruminating too much? Is there something happening? You're having panic attacks? That sex is going to be the last thing on your mind if that's what's happening. But what do I do about my relationship of 20 years? It's not like I want to leave the man. I'm just pissed at him. This is the kind of things that we hear. And so what do we do? So my friend, Dr. Lori Mintz, actually created this framework because she's a sex therapist. Here's a picture of she and I at Ishwish. And so she created these nice little worksheets for my patients. And I'm going to review some of what she writes in it. But it has to do with divvying up the responsibilities, to trying to be more mindful, to really trying to schedule sex, to schedule these trysts, where you're just going to have a little weekend getaway. We talk about Vyleesi as the date night drug or the weekend getaway drug. You have to plan these things. And so that's really important. But in her worksheet that she's given me to give to my patients, proven behavioral ways to motivate you to want to have sex, right? And again, she is an author of Becoming Clitorate. She's an amazing sex therapist. She wrote A Tired Woman's Guide to Passionate Sex. She really talks about changing the way you think about sex, which is kind of what I was just getting at, right? You have to start thinking of what are the things in this world that give you pleasure. Is it being outside in the sun? Is it having ice cream? Is it just trying to get more involved in what's happening with your senses? And that will sometimes flip a switch in your brain to make you think about more of the mindfulness. And so when she describes being mindful, she's really about putting your mind and body in the same place by letting go of thoughts and focusing on your sensations. And that brings down to something called that sensate focus that a lot of sex therapists are involved with. And it's really practicing mindfulness, not only in the bedroom, but outside of it. So she gave an example of brushing your teeth. Why don't you brush your teeth? I want you to think about washing your hands, and each time the mind wanders, bring it back to the sensations you're feeling. What's happening? How cold is that water? What's happening to your teeth? What does that feel like when you're brushing your teeth? Is the toothpaste splattering everywhere? Those in the moment sensations. And there's also some, apps that you can use called Timer or Headspace. And so you have to get in the hang of letting go of the ruminations, of the thoughts that are keeping you up, the to-do lists, the mental load that is placed on you. I'm trying to do this myself because I feel a big mental load on me all the time. And so you want to focus on the sensation, and you then can apply it to sexual encounters. We talk about using vibrators and getting some time to pleasure yourself to kind of remind you of what brings you pleasure, what might bring you arousal and orgasm. There's the Rosie app, which is an app created by my friend, Dr. Lindsay Harper, really looking at, different types of either written erotica or other ways. There's OMG Yes. There are a lot of platforms that you can utilize. You can watch, read, and listen to different types of erotica, right? This, like I said, and then set some time. Put this on your to-do list. Make it on your to-do list that you're going to set some time off to fantasize. Okay, I'm going to use these next 10 minutes to fantasize for a minute. You can set an alarm and say okay, this is going to be the next time that I'm going to sit and fantasize about something or someone that brings me pleasure or happiness. Even if it's not something you would ever experience in real life, it wakes up something in you. The other thing she talks about really is decreasing your stress, right? We always talk about trying to meditate, trying to, people do yoga and other things because it teaches you mindfulness. But also hey, get somebody's help and say, I want to divide these household duties. Or if you have the means or ability to, hire someone or to find some help, try to do that. But try to take stuff off your plate. That is one of the best things you can do. And hopefully opening lines of communication with your partner will be such a transformative thing. Some people, when I talk to them, I can't talk to my partner about that. They'll just they get really upset about it. Or if they're going to allow me to work, then I have to be able to do some of this stuff. I can't give up the household stuff, this kind of thing. So it really is, depending on the relationship, but really opening up I would want to have sex with you more if I didn't feel so overwhelmed around the house all the time. If I didn't feel like the laundry's piled up and I got to take care of it. So either you need to start helping me take care of the day-to-day chores, not just doing the fun stuff with the kids or, doing the once a season lawn mowing or changing light bulbs, whatever. It's the day-to-day exhausting mental load that puts on you. And so you need to get someone to either, a lot of sex therapists tell me that. Lori Mintz actually said that too. Sometimes she actually is uses the sex therapy sessions to say, this is what you're going to do, and this is what you're going to do. And you're going to allow her to do this, and he's going to do that. So, really giving people chores that they can do so that they can alleviate that mental load from you. The sensate focus, again, is also around exchanging erotic touch, but not going all the way, right? Like just doing certain things, touching certain, being playful, smacking butts, whatever you want to do. I think that's something to be said for doing some of that might make you feel a little more encouraged, maybe create some spontaneous desire. And then really trying to be mindful actually during an encounter, right? Like trying to really stay in the moment, what's making you happy, what's bringing you pleasure. It doesn't have to be spontaneous all the time. It can be something that is brought on because you guys are watching something together. Schedule these times together, schedule a weekend night, schedule a date night every week or twice a month. Make sure you have that time to connect and remember why you are together, right? Like those are small, simple things that we can do, but are really important. And so I feel that this is something that most sex therapists really encourage. Finding a sex therapist through the Society for Sex Therapy and Research, that's STAR, or the American Association of Sex Therapists, Educators, and Counselors, which is ASECT. It's really important to schedule things, to communicate, to know what brings you pleasure, and to be mindful. These are really essential things that we talk about when it comes to releasing your mental load that so many women who are paired with men face. And so that's why sometimes you'll see these memes that this is porn for women, right? Like he's holding a baby, he's doing laundry, he's doing something in the kitchen. Like that is why that's pornography for women, because the idea of dividing that role makes someone feel so much better. That's what I want to leave you guys with. It's not something so profound for so many of you, I'm sure you realize, but what are you going to do about it? You're going to start trying to be more mindful of what brings you pleasure. You're going to try to communicate better with your partner. You might need help to communicate. You might have to bring in that sex therapist and go to the website for ASECT and STAR. You may want to bring in other parties to do some fantasy within your relationship, I think that different people have thresholds for different things, and whatever you do, communication is key. Sometimes doing it with a counselor is very important. Dividing up those gendered roles. You don't feel like the caretaker all the time. You don't feel like the one that's doing the daily chores, that's taking care of the kids. You don't feel like the one that doesn't have time to shower on her own. You don't have time to go for your run or to do your exercise. You're not making that time. That's what the whole concept of self-care is, right? And so we really have to work towards some of that stuff. And the way to do it is just say, I'm going to start tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to give myself fantasy time. I'm going to give myself time to exercise or take that time for myself. And then we're going to schedule a date night on X date. In the meantime, I'm going to be trying to get more in tune to our senses. I'm going to try to put my phone away. I'm going to try to be present in the moment. Most women have success with this, or most couples will have success with this. But don't be afraid to get help. This is not something you should struggle with alone. It is very common, actually. It's a very common thing. So, try to switch up the roles a little bit. Try to do better for yourself. Try to advocate for yourself, even in your own relationship. Because I always say, I'm here to educate so you could advocate. And so that could mean advocate in the medical arena, but also advocate for yourself in your own relationship. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little quick discussion around how we can improve our libido in other ways. That's not necessarily a prescription. Trying to look at beyond the biology of it, right? We're talking about the social aspects. Again, my name is Dr. Smita Ron. I'm Gyno Girl. Thanks for joining me on Gyno Girl TV. Join me over on my podcast, Gyno Girl Presents. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Remember, I'm here to educate so you can advocate for yourself. And I think I'm going to do something with this Vigilante Nation. So if you want to join me, let's go.